Hello, my name is Andrew Feldman, and today we'll be getting an inside look of a presidential campaign, following Senator Joe Biden around New Hampshire as his push for the White House continues. Making 2 stops around New Hampshire. Our first stop is Portsmouth, and we will catch up with you when we're there. Hello again, we made it to Portsmouth, New Hampshire from Endicott. We are here in an industrial park where we will be meeting up with the Joe Biden campaign and starting today's events. This is where Senator Joe Biden will be holding his Iraq forum. He will be making a short speech and answering questions from the crowd. Right now you can see the Biden campaign workers setting everything up and making sure everything is ready for the senator. What are we doing here today? What are today's events?
All right, today's events, this is the Seacoast Media Group. They are the parent company of the Portsmouth Herald, the Hampton Union, Exit Newsletter, a series of newspapers across the Seacoast in New Hampshire. Very influential. And they put on an open forum where constituents across the state, if they want to come, can come, but generally on the Seacoast come and ask Senator Biden some questions. In particular, this Q&A will be about Iraq. If we have an event, we're all hands on deck for the events of the day, setting up advanced work, so setting up the room, and making sure everything's ready for Senator Biden when he comes in to speak, so he's in and out as best as possible. Maybe put it at an angle. You might add the ass a little bit. What's that?
We are about 10 minutes away from Senator Joe Biden arriving. People are starting to flow into the Seacoast Media Group cafeteria as we speak.
Say hi.
As the crowd anxiously awaited Senator Biden's arrival, so did the press.
Great.
You know what I got to ask?
Oh,
sure. Come on. No, you can come on. Come on.
Where are you?
There.
Oh, yeah.
What were you going to say about the fire?
Wonderful.
I was going to say, I'm going to ask a question of the press.
Which one?
I don't remember. So many.
I mean, which question?
Well, the question I got asked was, of course, the lapel pin and the flag. Why do you do that? That's a strange question.
Well, there's a lot of people, strange people in the media. I can assure you of that.
A lot of strange Democrats, too, these days.
So I'm going to ditch my Gettysburg address.
Hi, Senator. Good to see you. I'm wired.
Definitely not to me.
You can hear you. It's not a TV.
It's inside.
You're inside, I hear you.
Hey, how are you? Hey, I have 4 granddaughters. This is the important thing. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Folks, how are you? I appreciate you being here. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I've been doing editorial board meetings across your state today. So folks, thank you. Thank you for giving me a shot. I chose Iraq. I'm told each of us who came before you decided which subject we wanted to speak to. In a nutshell, the reason I chose Iraq's like the big boulder sitting in the middle of the road, folks. Until we settle Iraq, we cannot reestablish our credibility in the world to deal with other foreign policy dilemma. And until we settle Iraq, we cannot deal with We don't have the flexibility to deal with all the things that made me a Democrat. I'd be delighted to take any of your questions. Thank you.
What would you do as president to not only curb some of that power, in addition to the enormous agenda you would have on your plate to turn around the issues that the current administration has mucked up?
On Monday, Secretary Robert Gates of the Defense Department came out and said he wants to see more money for the State Department to support the international affairs budget, claiming that self-diplomacy was indeed a way to forestall or put off these conflicts that we have springing up around the world. I wonder if you had any comments on this.
And one way you propose to support this is with the oil revenue.
Yes.
20% to the Sunnis, I suppose, 20% to the Kurds, and 60% to the Shiites. Isn't that, however, already on the table in the Iraqi parliament and they can't agree to it? How would you solve that?
If you were Secretary of State.
I'm not going to be Secretary of State, so don't say that. I am not. Let me make it clear
Well,
to
I
the press.
certainly hope you
Under
do.
no administration will I accept a job as Secretary of State. Okay? Now, you know, I know all my opponents out there are heaping praise on me that I'd be a great Secretary of State. Seriously, every one of them. Have you watched any of the debates? Joe's right, Joe's right, Joe's right, Joe's right. Seriously, I'm not joking. Okay? And then they say, what do you think about Joe? He'd make a great Secretary of State. Or I'd consider him for Vice President. Well, let me tell you something, folks. I ask you a rhetorical question. Are you prepared to vote for anyone at this moment in our history as president who is not capable of being Secretary of State? Now I'll ask you a second question. Who among my opponents would you consider appointing Secretary of State? Seriously, think about it. And I get asked that question a lot across the country. In other words, I'll repeat the question. If Joe, if you're not going to be Vice President and or Secretary of State, what can we do to get you to be President? What can we do to help? I'm not joking with you guys. That's why I'm here in New Hampshire. That's why I am in Iowa. It's the last level playing field. Go out and vote for me. Literally. Get postcards out and write to your friends saying, I know this guy Biden, I like him. If you do. If you do. Encourage people to support me. Show up and vote. Because of all those people who said to me, you're the most qualified guy, Joe, but how do you win? I don't think you can win. If they all vote for me, I'll win.
Well, that's the end of our first stop here. As you can see, it's been a very long day. We're heading to the second stop and final stop of our journey to Hampton, and we'll see you there in a few. Oh, here we are. We've made it to our second destination on today's campaign with Joe Biden. We are now in Hampton, New Hampshire. We came from Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We are at this old type tavern place called Widow Fletcher's Tavern. It's a type bar community. It is known as for being an old-time political hangout. We're gonna go in and check out what's going on.
And then all stand up and say, I was appointed by John Kennedy. I was appointed by Lyndon Johnson, all through the whole thing. And while they were talking, he turned to me and he said, Joe, your federal judges do what you tell them. And I said, no, sir, mine don't. He said, mine do. Speaking of influence, mine don't. Thank you all.
So now I'm not voting on the gravy.
See, she thinks I'm stupid. She says she'd like a photo. I'm going to say no, right? What's your name?
Thank you, Debbie.
Nice to meet you, Debbie. It's Chip, right? Yes, sir. Thanks.
Ah, yes, good old Chip. How are you, pal?
Jim, good thanks. How you doing?
Well.
There you go, bud. Thanks, Chip. Hey, thanks for the hospitality, everybody. Thank you.
Andrew Feldman, Endicott College. Hey, I'm a huge supporter. Just one quick question for you. How has the campaign in New Hampshire gone, and how is that going to help you continue on your way to the White House?
I'm going to come out of New Hampshire, winning this primary after coming out of Iowa second or third, and with the help of Senator Preston and you, I think I'm going to be able to not only do well with the Democrats, but I think this time independents are going to vote in the Democratic primary.
We'll be spreading the word. Thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy. Great job.
Joe, thank you.
You thanking me? Come on. Thank you, bud.
Okay. The buttons, the mail buttons are still in there, right? We got a request.
She got up for it. I love you.
I know.
How do you think the votes will change in New Hampshire, if any, after today's, outcome from all the people
This is part of building momentum. We got a good group. Well, first you had the Q&A up in Portsmouth with the media all over it, and it gave them an opportunity to see Joe Biden shooting straight with the American people,
Exactly.
answering questions that with substance and not beating on the bush. And I think that's something we're looking for here. Regular people can talk to him. We had a lot of active political folks down here, officials who came down to support Joe Biden, and this is only the beginning. I mean, most of the voters still haven't even decided.
Right. Well, it's been a long and eventful day, but we made it out successfully. And as you can see, being a part of a political campaign is a lot of work, a lot of time, and it really takes commitment. Think about it. Senator Joe Biden had 2 events before these 2 that we saw today, and we were there for 7 hours. He had a 14-hour day starting early this morning, and now he's on his way to the next city. It really gave us a great feel for what being a part of a campaign is like. I'm Andrew Feldman, and that was a look inside a political campaign.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say